The U.S. frontier moved slowly through the empty space at the edge of the known galaxy. Captain Jack Howard stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the viewscreen that showed nothing but stars against the blackness of space. "Anything unusual, Officer Martinez?" Jack asked, turning to his science officer. Olivia Martinez shook her head, her dark hair swaying slightly. "Nothing yet, Captain. Just the usual cosmic radiation and—" She stopped suddenly, her eyes widening as she looked at her screen. "Wait, I'm picking up something very faint. It's a ship, sir, but the energy signature is so weak I almost missed it." Jack moved to her station. "Can you get a visual?" "Trying now," Olivia said, her fingers moving quickly over the controls. The main screen flickered and showed a small battered vessel drifting slowly through space. It was unlike any ship they had seen before, with an odd curved design that seemed almost delicate. "Life signs?" Jack asked. "Yes, but they're strange, very faint. I count about 20 beings aboard, but their biorhythms are so weak that our sensors barely detect them." Lieutenant Sam Garcia looked up from the navigation console. "Should we make contact, Captain?" Jack nodded. "Open a channel, Kelly." Communications specialist Kelly Wright pressed several buttons on her console. "Channel open." "Sir." "Unknown vessel, this is Captain Jack Howard of the Earth ship U.S. Frontier. We come in peace and offer assistance if needed." For a long moment, there was only silence. Then a soft, high-pitched voice came through the speakers. "Earth ship, we are Nylari. We thank you for contact." The voice was hesitant, almost fearful. Jack and Olivia exchanged glances. "We would like to meet with you," Jack said. "With your permission, we can come aboard your vessel." Another pause. "Yes, you may come. We welcome visitors." An hour later, Jack, Olivia, Sam, and Kelly stood in the transport room, preparing to beam over to the Nylari ship. "Remember," Jack said, "we know nothing about these beings. Stay alert but friendly." The transport beam surrounded them with light, and moments later they stood in the dimly lit interior of the alien vessel. Jack blinked, letting his eyes adjust to the low light. What he saw made him gasp softly. The Nylari were small, no more than 4 feet tall. Their bodies were thin, almost frail-looking, with pale blue skin that seemed almost transparent. Large, dark eyes dominated their faces, and they moved with a careful, delicate grace, as if afraid they might break. One of them stepped forward. "I am Ziv. We welcome you to our ship." Jack nodded politely. "Thank you for allowing us to visit. We're explorers from Earth." Ziv tilted his head. "We know of humans. Your species is young but strong, much stronger than Nylari." Olivia stepped forward, scanning the aliens with her device. "Your physiology is fascinating. Your muscle density is about 1/3 of ours, but your neural activity is incredible." Ziv seemed pleased by her interest. "Yes, Nylari minds are our only gift. Our bodies," he gestured at himself sadly, "they are weak. This is why we serve others across the galaxy." "Serve?" Sam asked, frowning. "Yes. Nylari are workers, servants. For many species, we are too weak to fight, too weak to resist. So we serve." Kelly looked troubled. "You mean you're slaves?" Ziv seemed confused by the word. "We are useful. It is our place." Before Jack could respond, alarms blared throughout the Nylari ship. Ziv and the other Nylari looked terrified. "What's happening?" Jack demanded. "Vraxian ship," Ziv's voice was filled with fear. "They hunt us. We escaped their mines 3 cycles ago." The ship shook violently. Olivia checked her scanner. "Captain, a battlecruiser just dropped out of light speed. They're firing on both ships." "We need to get back to the frontier," Jack said urgently. He tapped his communicator. "Howard to frontier. Emergency beam out." "Negative, Captain," came the response. "Our shields are under attack. We can't lower them for transport." Another blast rocked the ship. Part of the ceiling collapsed, and 2 of the Nylari fell to the floor. "The shuttle bay," Sam said. "We can take their shuttle to the frontier." Jack nodded. "Ziv, come with us. Bring any of your people who can travel." As they ran through the corridors of the dying ship, Jack knew that this encounter had just changed everything. The galaxy had overlooked the Nylari. Humans would not make the same mistake. The shuttle landed roughly in the frontier's bay, just as the Nylari ship exploded behind them. Jack helped the last of the 7 Nylari survivors out of the small craft, while alarms blared throughout the human ship. "Captain to bridge," Jack said into his communicator. "Set course away from the Vraxian cruiser, maximum speed." "Already done, sir," came the reply. "We're outrunning them, but they damaged our long-range communications." 2 weeks later, the Frontier arrived at Earth with its unexpected passengers. The 7 Nylari looked out the viewport with wide eyes as they approached the blue planet. "Your world has much water," Ziv said softly. "It is beautiful." Instead of the main spaceport, the Frontier landed at a hidden facility built into the Rocky Mountains. Armed guards met them as they exited the ship, but their weapons lowered when Admiral Laura Nelson stepped forward. "Captain Howard," she said with a nod. "I read your report. These are the Nylari." Her eyes moved to the small blue aliens who stood close together, clearly nervous. "Yes, Admiral. This is Ziv, their representative." Laura studied the aliens carefully. "Follow me, all of you." They walked through long tunnels cut into the mountain until they reached a large room filled with screens and maps. Dr. Alan Brooks was waiting for them, his kind eyes bright with curiosity behind his glasses. "I'm an anthropologist," he explained to the Nylari. "I study different cultures. And I want to understand your situation in the galaxy," Laura added, motioning for everyone to sit at the large table. Ziv spoke slowly, choosing his words carefully. "Nylari come from the planet Nylar. Long ago, stronger species found us. They saw we were weak in body, but quick to learn. They took us to work for them." "As slaves," Jack said, his voice hard. Ziv tilted his head. "We have no word that means exactly that. We serve because we cannot fight. Our bodies break easily, but our minds—" He tapped his head. "Our minds remember everything we see. We learn very quickly." Engineer Diane Powell, who had been quietly observing, leaned forward. "Show me," she said, taking a pen from her pocket. She twirled it between her fingers in a complex pattern. Ziv watched once, then took the pen and repeated the movement perfectly. "Remarkable," Diane whispered. "How many Nylari exist in the galaxy?" Laura asked. "Millions," Ziv replied. "We are on thousands of worlds. We clean, we fix, we serve. No one fears us. No one thinks we can fight." Alan frowned. "And you want to fight now? That doesn't seem right. We shouldn't change your peaceful nature." Ziv looked at him with his large dark eyes. "We are not peaceful by choice, but by weakness. Every Nylari dreams of standing tall, of saying no to masters, but we cannot." Laura walked to the window that overlooked the training grounds below, where human soldiers practiced combat exercises. "What if you could?" she asked quietly. Ziv joined her at the window. "What do you mean? What if humans taught you to fight? Not with strength, but with skill and strategy." The other Nylari moved closer, their eyes fixed on the training grounds below. "Admiral," Alan protested, "we can't militarize an entire species." "We wouldn't be," Laura replied. "We'd be giving them a choice they've never had before." Ziv turned to Laura, and for the first time, the humans saw something new in the alien's eyes. "Hope. You would teach us?" he asked. "It won't be easy," Laura warned. "It will take time and work." "Will it hurt?" asked one of the smaller Nylari. Jack smiled gently. "Yes, but then you'll get stronger." Ziv looked at his fellow Nylari, and they seemed to communicate without words. "We accept," he said finally. "Teach us to be like humans." "No," Laura corrected. We'll teach you to be Nylari who can fight. That's very different. As the group left the room to show the aliens their new quarters, Diane stayed behind with Laura. Do you really think this can work? Diane asked. They're so fragile. Laura watched through the window as the Nylari walked with Jack and the others, already standing a little straighter. They've been overlooked and underestimated by the entire galaxy, she said. Sometimes that's the most powerful position to start from. Commander Frank Murphy stood in the training room, arms crossed as he looked at the 7 Nylari lined up in front of him. 1 month had passed since their arrival on Earth, and today was their first day of combat training. I've trained Navy SEALs for 15 years, Frank said, but I've never trained aliens before. This will be new for all of us. Ziv and the other Nylari watched him with their large dark eyes. They wore simple gray workout clothes made specially for their small frames. First, we need to test your strength, Frank said. He pointed to a machine in the corner. This measures how hard you can hit. Ziv went first. He hit the pad as hard as he could. The machine showed a very low number. Frank nodded. About what I expected. You have roughly 1/3 the strength of an average human. He didn't look disappointed. But strength isn't everything in a fight. For the next 2 hours, Frank showed them basic fighting moves. The Nylari watched carefully and copied every movement exactly. Frank was amazed at how quickly they learned. It usually takes weeks to master that block, he said after Ziv perfectly performed a defensive move on his first try. We remember what we see, Ziv explained. Our bodies are weak, but our minds remember everything. By the end of the day, the Nylari had learned what would have taken human students a month to master. They were tired but excited. In another part of the facility, Kate Rodriguez worked in her weapons lab. The door opened, and Diane Powell walked in with 2 of the Nylari. Kate, this is Mira and Tool, Diane said. They're going to help us create weapons that work for Nylari physiology. Kate smiled at the aliens. I've been thinking about this. You can't handle the recoil of our guns, and most of our weapons are too heavy for you. She showed them a table covered with parts. So we'll make new ones. Mira picked up a small piece of metal. On my master's ship, I fixed the targeting systems. I know how they work. Kate's eyes widened. You were a mechanic. All Nylari learn the work they are given, Tool explained. I worked in weapons production for the Vraxian fleet for 20 years. I built their guns, but was never allowed to use them. Kate and Diane exchanged a look of surprise. These servants had been learning their master's technologies for generations. In the strategy room, Colonel Ben Harrison spread a map on the table. Ziv and 3 other Nylari looked at it carefully. When you're physically weaker than your opponent, you need different tactics, Ben explained. You don't fight head-on. You use surprise, speed, and their own assumptions against them. Like the way small animals hunt larger ones, asked Lur, one of the younger Nylari. Ben smiled. Exactly. Guerrilla warfare. Hit and run. Use the environment. Make them fight on your terms, not theirs. That evening, Jack Howard found the Nylari in their quarters, sitting in a circle on the floor. They were touching foreheads, their eyes closed. What are they doing? Jack asked Laura, who stood watching from the doorway. Sharing, she replied quietly. Diane discovered it yesterday. They can transfer knowledge through direct neural contact. Everything one learns, they all learn. Jack watched in amazement. So the combat training that Ziv received today is now being shared with all of them, Laura finished. And tomorrow, Mira will share what she learned about weapons design. This changes everything, Jack said softly. We expected this training to take years. Laura nodded. At this rate, they'll be ready for field operations in months, not years. Inside the circle, Ziv opened his eyes for a moment and looked at the humans. For the first time since they had met him, he smiled. Tomorrow, he said, we want to try sparring with humans. Jack looked surprised. Are you sure? You could get hurt. Ziv's smile grew wider. We won't get hurt. We've been watching. We've been learning. We know how to fall now, how to roll, how to use your momentum against you. Laura chuckled softly. I think our instructors are in for a surprise tomorrow. 6 months had passed since the Nylari began their training. Admiral Laura Nelson sat in the briefing room with Captain Jack Howard, watching a video of the latest training exercise. On the screen, a small Nylari named Lur moved through an obstacle course, avoiding traps and taking down human opponents twice his size. Incredible, Jack said. 6 months ago, he couldn't even throw a punch. Laura nodded. The way they use leverage and momentum makes up for their lack of strength, and their accuracy with the new lightweight weapons is better than our best marksmen. The door opened and Olivia Martinez walked in, followed by Ziv. The Nylari looked different now, still small and thin, but he moved with confidence and purpose. We have news, Olivia said. Our deep space monitoring station picked up a Vraxian slave transport near the Jupiter outpost. They're carrying Nylari workers. Ziv's large eyes narrowed. How many? At least 50, according to the scan, Olivia replied. They're being taken to a mining colony. Laura studied Ziv's face. You think it's time, don't you? Ziv nodded. We are ready. This could be our first mission. An hour later, they gathered in the war room. Sam Garcia, now a lieutenant commander, stood beside a holographic display of the Vraxian ship. The transport will pass through this asteroid field, Sam explained, pointing to the map. That's where we'll intercept them. Kate Rodriguez stepped forward, carrying a case. She opened it to reveal small, sleek weapons. These are designed specifically for Nylari hands. Lightweight but powerful. The neural targeting system connects directly to your brain, making them incredibly accurate. Colonel Ben Harrison reviewed the tactical plan. Remember your training. The Vraxians will not expect Nylari to fight. Use their surprise against them. And most importantly, Frank added, remember that your greatest advantage is that no one in the galaxy believes you're capable of this. The moment you board that ship, you're making history. 2 days later, a small Earth shuttle approached the asteroid field. Inside, 7 Nylari sat in silence, wearing black combat suits. Lieutenant Sam and Specialist Kate were the only humans on the mission. Vraxian transport detected, Sam said from the pilot's seat. They don't see us yet. Ziv checked his weapon. Remember, our goal is to free our people and escape. No unnecessary risks. The shuttle glided silently through the asteroids until it was directly above the larger Vraxian ship. With precision burns from the thrusters, Sam brought them down on the hull. Cutting through now, Kate whispered, activating a laser tool that sliced through the Vraxian ship's outer hull. One by one, the Nylari dropped through the hole and into the cargo hold. Inside, they found rows of Nylari sitting on benches, wrists bound by energy cuffs. The prisoners looked up in confusion at the armed members of their own species. Who are you? One of them asked. We are free Nylari, Ziv replied, using a device to deactivate the energy cuffs. And now, you are too. Alarms suddenly blared throughout the ship. A voice boomed over the speakers in a harsh alien language. 3 guards coming, Tool warned, monitoring a small scanner. The door to the cargo hold slid open. 3 tall, muscular Vraxians stormed in, weapons raised. They paused in confusion when they saw armed Nylari. That moment of hesitation was all the trained Nylari needed. They moved with incredible speed and coordination. Mira and Lur fired their weapons with perfect accuracy, stunning 2 guards. Ziv and Tool used their momentum-based fighting style to bring down the 3rd, larger guard without even using their weapons. The freed Nylari watched in stunned silence. How is this possible? One of them asked, staring at the unconscious Vraxians. Nylari cannot fight. Ziv helped an older Nylari to his feet. That's what the galaxy believes. That belief is now our greatest weapon. On the bridge, the Vraxian captain received reports of Nylari resistance with disbelief. Impossible, he growled. Check again. It must be humans disguised as Nilari. By the time he realized the truth, Sam had already guided both ships away from the asteroid field, with all Nilari safely aboard, heading for Earth. Word of the rescue would soon spread throughout the galaxy, but not the truth about who had really done it. No one would believe that the Nilari, the weakest species known, could possibly have become warriors. 3 months after the first rescue mission, the Earth base was buzzing with activity. Over 200 Nilari now lived and trained there, each one sharing knowledge through their neural connection. In a large meeting room, Admiral Laura Nelson addressed the gathered humans and Nilari. The Vraxian Empire has officially blamed Earth for the attacks on their ships, she said. They don't believe the Nilari are capable of such actions. This works in our favor. Dr. Alan Brooks, who had initially opposed militarizing the Nilari, now stood beside a holographic map showing dozens of small lights scattered across the galaxy. These are the hidden training bases we've established, he explained. Abandoned moons, remote asteroids, and forgotten space stations. Every rescued Nilari who completes training here on Earth is sent to one of these bases to teach others. Ziv stepped forward. His posture and movements showed how much he had changed in the past 9 months. Our neural sharing ability means one trained Nilari can teach 50 others in just days. Those 50 can each teach 50 more. Our numbers grow quickly. Engineer Diane Powell pulled up images of new ships and weapons on the screen. The Nilari technicians have adapted our designs to create technology perfectly suited for their physiology. Lighter, faster, and more precise than anything humans or other species use. What about the Galactic Hegemony? Asked Sam. Are they catching on? Kate shook her head. They're still looking for human involvement. Their reports mention human agents and Earth Special Forces. Not a single official report suggests the Nilari themselves could be responsible. Jack Howard, recently promoted to Admiral, smiled. Their blindness is our greatest advantage. They've overlooked the Nilari for so long they can't even imagine them as a threat. On the main screen, reports from across the galaxy appeared. A Vraxian prison mine experiencing an unexplained system failure, allowing all Nilari workers to escape. A Zenturian battlecruiser found adrift in space, its Nilari maintenance crew mysteriously gone. A Krell weapons factory suffering critical damage after its cleaning staff disappeared. The hegemony is confused, Laura said. They see the pattern but can't believe the cause. Some member species have even begun improving conditions for their Nilari servants, hoping to prevent whatever is happening. Ziv touched a control, and the screen showed a large space station. This is our next major target, the Galactic Hegemony's central processing station, where new Nilari workers are sorted and assigned to masters. Thousands of our people pass through there every month. It's heavily guarded, warned Frank. Direct assault would be suicide. We won't need a direct assault, Ziv replied with a small smile. 20 of our people already work there as maintenance staff. They've been hiding weapons and equipment for months. One of the younger Nilari, Ela, stepped forward. She had been among the first rescued from the Vraxian transport. I worked there for 5 years before being sent to the mines. I know every corridor, every security measure. The guards never pay attention to Nilari. Why would they? We were never a threat. The room fell silent as everyone considered what was happening. Dr. Brooks finally spoke. You're creating an entirely new form of warfare, he said quietly. One based not on strength or numbers, but on being invisible until the moment you choose not to be. In the months that followed, more ships arrived at Earth carrying rescued Nilari. Each group was amazed to see their own kind moving with confidence, handling weapons, and teaching combat techniques. A young Nilari named Vel had just arrived from a Krell mining world. He watched wide-eyed as Mira demonstrated a fighting move that dropped a human twice her size. I don't understand, Vel said. All my life, I was told Nilari cannot fight. That we are too weak. Ziv placed a hand on Vel's shoulder. Strength isn't just in muscles. The humans taught us that. Our minds, our speed, our precision. These are strengths too. The galaxy made a mistake when they thought weakness of body meant weakness of spirit. Admiral Nelson watched from across the room as the newly arrived Nylari began their training. She turned to Jack. "The Vraxian Empire has requested a meeting with Earth representatives," she said. "They're starting to worry." "Good," Jack replied. "They should be." 1 year after the Nylari first came to Earth, a fleet of Vraxian warships appeared at the edge of the solar system. 5 large battle cruisers moved slowly toward Earth, weapons systems fully charged. In the command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Laura Nelson watched the approaching ships on the main screen. "They're sending a message," she said to the gathered officers and Nylari leaders. "They want us to know they're coming." Captain Sam Garcia studied the tactical display. "Their weapons could cause serious damage to our defense systems. We don't have enough ships to stop them all." Ziv stepped forward, looking calm despite the threat. "This is the moment we've been preparing for. The Vraxians believe humans are behind the attacks on their ships and facilities. They don't know about us. Time to show them the truth," said Mira, now a commander of her own Nylari squad. Within an hour, 3 small ships left Earth's atmosphere. They were new vessels designed by Nylari engineers, sleek, fast, and nearly invisible to standard scanners. On board were 50 trained Nylari fighters, and not a single human. Admiral Jack Howard watched from the command center as the small fleet approached the much larger Vraxian ships. "Do you think they're ready?" he asked Laura quietly. She nodded. "They've been ready for months. This is their fight now." In the lead Nylari ship, Ziv sat in the captain's chair. Around him, other Nylari worked at their stations with quick, precise movements. They had trained for hundreds of hours in simulators for this exact scenario. "The Vraxians haven't detected us yet," reported Tool from the sensor station. "Their systems aren't designed to look for ships our size moving at this speed. They expect human ships," Ziv said. "Big, powerful, and easy to see. Not us." The 3 Nylari vessels split up, each targeting a different Vraxian cruiser. Ziv's ship approached the lead cruiser, the largest of the enemy vessels. "Weapons ready," reported Lur from the tactical station, targeting their main engines and weapon systems. "Fire when ready," Ziv ordered calmly. The Nylari ship released a series of small, precisely targeted energy pulses. They hit the Vraxian cruiser in exactly the right spots to disable its main systems without destroying the ship. On the Vraxian bridge, alarms blared as systems failed one after another. The captain, a large, muscular alien with dark red skin, roared in anger. "What is happening? Find the human ships and destroy them." "Sir, we can't find any human signatures," reported his officer. "But sensors are detecting something small, too small to be a threat." The captain looked at the screen just as Ziv's face appeared on it. The Vraxian's eyes widened in shock. "Nylari," he gasped. "This is impossible." "The galaxy believed that too," Ziv replied. "That belief was your mistake." Across the battlefield, the other Nylari ships moved with incredible speed and precision, running circles around the larger, slower Vraxian vessels. Their weapons hit with perfect accuracy, disabling but not destroying their targets. In the Earth Command Center, everyone watched in amazement as the small Nylari fleet systematically took apart the Vraxian attack force. "It's like watching a dance," Diane whispered. "They're so fast, the Vraxians can't even track them." "Their ships are designed for Nylari reflexes," Frank said. "No human could pilot a vessel that responsive." Within 20 minutes, all 5 Vraxian cruisers were disabled, floating helplessly in space. Not one had been destroyed, and not one had managed to fire a single shot at the Nylari vessels. On the main communication channel, the Vraxian captain's face showed a mixture of rage and disbelief. "This is some human trick," he snarled. "Nylari cannot fight. They are servants, not warriors." Ziv's calm voice answered him. "The galaxy will need to reconsider what Nylari can and cannot do. Your ships are disabled, but your life support systems still work. Return to your empire and deliver this message. The Nilari are no longer servants. We are free." As the Nilari ships returned to Earth, messages poured in from across the galaxy. The news had spread quickly. Nilari had defeated a Vraxian battle fleet. Most officials refused to believe it, insisting it must be humans using Nilari as a cover. But among the millions of Nilari servants working throughout the galaxy, the news spread like wildfire. For the first time in their history, the weakest species in the galaxy dared to hope. 2 months after the defeat of the Vraxian fleet, the Galactic Hegemony called an emergency meeting. Representatives from 27 powerful species gathered in the Great Council Chamber on their capital world, Centris Prime. They argued for hours about the growing threat. "It must be humans using Nilari as puppets," insisted the Vraxian ambassador, his red face dark with anger. "Nilari cannot fight." "Then explain why Nilari are disappearing from work sites across the galaxy," said the Zenturian delegate, her silver skin reflecting the chamber lights. "My people have lost thousands of servants in the past month alone." What none of them realized was that Nilari had been cleaning their council chamber for centuries. In the air ducts above them, 5 trained Nilari fighters listened to every word, sending the information directly to Ziv. On Earth, Admiral Laura Nelson met with the Nilari Leadership Council, now 15 members strong. Ziv stood at the head of the table, no longer just a representative, but the elected leader of the Free Nilari. "The time has come," Ziv said. "Our people are ready. We have trained units on over 800 worlds. Our communication network spans the entire galaxy. The hegemony still does not understand what they face." Dr. Alan Brooks, who had once opposed the military training of the Nilari, now nodded in agreement. "Your culture has created something remarkable, a revolution without conquest. Your goal isn't to destroy your former masters, but to free yourselves. The hegemony is planning a joint attack on Earth," reported Lur, who had just returned from a mission. "They still believe humans are controlling us." Jack Howard frowned. "Earth can't withstand an attack from the combined hegemony forces." "Earth won't have to," Ziv replied. "The attack will never happen." That night, as the Galactic Hegemony Council continued their debate, something unprecedented occurred simultaneously on thousands of worlds. Nilari servants, the cleaners, mechanics, technicians, and maintenance workers who had been invisible for so long, put their training into action. On Centris Prime, the capital's power grid suddenly failed. The emergency systems, maintained by Nilari technicians for generations, did not activate. In the darkness, the council members panicked. "What is happening?" demanded the Krell ambassador. The main doors to the council chamber slid open. Ziv walked in, followed by 20 Nilari fighters. For the first time in galactic history, Nilari entered the council chamber not as servants, but as warriors. "We bring a message from the Free Nilari," Ziv announced, his voice calm but firm. "Guards," shouted the head counselor, but no guards came. "Your guards are dealing with their own problems," Ziv explained, "as are your ships, your weapons, and your communication systems. Across the galaxy, at this exact moment, Nilari are taking control." The council members stared in disbelief. "Impossible," whispered the Vraxian ambassador. "You believed us too weak to be a threat," Ziv continued. "That belief protected us as we prepared. While you looked for human spies and Earth ships, we were already in your homes, your ships, your palaces, your factories. We were everywhere, but you never saw us." On thousands of worlds, the pattern repeated. Vital systems failed. Communication networks went dark. Defense grids shut down. And in every case, Nilari who had served silently for generations simply stopped working and walked away. The Zenturian delegate was the first to understand. "Your weakness, it was your strength all along." Ziv nodded. "We did not need to build an army or a fleet. We were already behind every wall, inside every fortress. We did not need to conquer you. We just needed to stop serving you. On Earth, the humans watched reports coming in from across the galaxy. The revolution was succeeding not through violence, but through coordination and leverage. "It's the most brilliant military strategy I've ever seen," said Colonel Ben Harrison. "They turned their greatest disadvantage into their greatest weapon." Laura nodded. "We taught them how to fight, but they taught us something more important. There's more than one kind of power." The galactic hegemony, built on the service of those they thought too weak to resist, found itself paralyzed. The species they had overlooked for centuries now held the future of the galaxy in their small blue hands. 5 years had passed since the Nylari Revolution began. On the planet Centrus Prime, once the seat of the galactic hegemony, a new structure stood, the Great Hall of the Galactic Confederation. Inside, representatives from over 100 species gathered to mark the 5th anniversary of what historians now called the Quiet Revolution. Jack Howard, now a fleet admiral and Earth's ambassador to the Confederation, walked through the grand entrance. The hall was designed by Nylari architects, with gentle curves and perfect acoustics. Nothing about it felt imposing or intimidating, unlike the old hegemony council chamber. "Admiral Howard," called a familiar voice. Ziv approached, wearing the formal blue robes of the Chancellor of the Nylari Union. Though still small in stature, he carried himself with quiet dignity that commanded respect. "Chancellor," Jack replied with a smile. "Hard to believe it's been 5 years." "Indeed," Ziv said. "Sometimes I still expect to wake up and find myself serving in the cargo hold of a Vraxian ship." They entered the main chamber, where species that once ruled the galaxy now sat as equals with those they had once dominated. The Vraxians, Centurions, and Krell had resisted the new order at first, but faced with the choice between cooperation or having their entire infrastructure remain shut down, they had eventually accepted reality. Laura Nelson, now Earth's Secretary of Interstellar Relations, joined them at their table. "The trade agreement with the outer systems was ratified this morning," she reported. "Free movement for all species, including full rights for Nylari on every world." Dr. Alan Brooks, who had documented the entire Nylari transformation, watched from nearby. Over the years, he had written the definitive history of the revolution, showing how a species considered too weak to matter had reshaped galactic civilization. It wasn't just about fighting. Alan often explained in his lectures. It was about recognizing that strength comes in many forms. The Nylari turned centuries of perceived weakness into their greatest asset. As the ceremony began, representatives from various species shared stories of how the new confederation had changed their worlds. Many spoke of the surprising benefits of cooperation rather than domination. Trade routes that once required military protection now flowed freely. Technologies that had been hoarded by powerful species were now shared, creating prosperity across systems that had known only hardship. When Ziv rose to speak, the hall fell silent. His voice, though soft, carried to every corner thanks to the room's perfect design. 5 years ago, the galaxy saw the Nylari only as servants, too weak to matter, too small to threaten, too meek to lead. Humans saw something different. They saw not what we were, but what we could become. He gestured to the Earth delegation. "They did not give us strength. We found that within ourselves. They did not give us courage. That was always there, waiting. What they gave us was training, tools, and most importantly, the belief that physical power is not the only measure of a species' worth." Ziv continued, "Today, the Galactic Confederation stands as proof that cooperation creates more strength than conquest. The old hegemony ruled through fear. We lead through respect for all voices, all contributions, all forms of strength." After the ceremony, Diane Powell showed Jack and Laura the latest Nylari technology. Ships that could navigate faster than any in history, medical devices that could heal without pain, and communication systems that worked across vast distances instantly. "They've advanced more in 5 years than most species do in centuries," Diane said. Their minds were always their greatest asset. Outside the hall, a group of young Narration students listened to Frank Murphy, now elderly but still teaching. He no longer taught them how to fight. Instead, he taught them Earth's history, its mistakes, and its triumphs. The strongest weapon is here, he told them, pointing to his head. And the strongest protection is here. He pointed to the diverse crowd around them. As night fell on Centrus Prime, ships from across the galaxy lit the sky. Among them were vessels from Earth, the planet that had seen potential in the galaxy's most overlooked species. Ziv stood on a balcony watching the lights with Jack Howard. "Do you ever miss it?" Jack asked. "The training, the missions, the fight for freedom." Ziv shook his head. "Those days were necessary, but they were not our purpose. Our purpose was not to become the strongest fighters in the galaxy, but to create a galaxy where fighting is not how strength is measured." Jack nodded. "The least powerful species in the galaxy. That's what everyone called you." "And now," Ziv said with a smile, "we are unstoppable, not because we conquered the galaxy, but because we changed it."